All right, welcome back everyone. Welcome back to Out of the Box, Milan 2025. I hope you guys are all having a lovely day. I hope you're all enjoying yourselves. I hope you have some lovely coffee, met some lovely people, had some lovely conversations. And to continue our theme of conversations over coffee, we're going to talk about, we'll go into our next talk, which is maybe something that's a little bit newer for La Marzocco, something that we're very fortunate that with the expansion of the home range and the home products, we've really been able to broaden our horizons and go a little bit wider than, maybe just an espresso machine. And we're looked at more as now of a brand. With that brand, we then have the very fortuitous position to be able to now start doing and have some amazing brand collaborations. So that's what we're going to talk about. So I will ask my panel to please come up on the stage. And I will hand over the microphone. Who doesn't? There's one there.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hello.
Hey there.
How do we do this? So let me introduce myself very quickly, and I'll let everyone else introduce. I'm Remo. I'm a senior brand partnerships director for Highsnobiety. And for who of you don't know what Highsnobiety actually is, Highsnobiety it's a global magazine and consultancy firm that operates in the world of luxury. So here today, and I have a pleasure of introducing in the round.
I got one.
Surprise.
Yeah, hi, I'm Dennis. I'm responsible for brand management and partnerships at Porsche, and very happy to be able to talk to you about our wonderful collaboration with La Marzocco today.
Yes, I'm Deniz Riner, so Deniz and Denisse. We planned this for a very long time. And I am a design strategist at Victorinox and lead designer for brand collaborations.
And I'm Stefano Della Pietra, product design and innovation manager for La Marzocco. Ciao a tutti.
Yeah, so I have a few questions for you, obviously. But before I started, I wanted to, also have a quick say about this very important topic for today. I was actually very pleased to be invited here to celebrate Out of the Box. It's a massive event, actually much bigger than I thought. So congratulations to the team at La Marzocco. You did a fantastic job. But also the topic and what we're going to be discussing today is something that is very close to us, I guess, to me, to Highsnobiety as an editor and as a consultancy firm, as an agency, to you guys and to your brands and to most of the brands that today are trying to find space in a very troubled market, in a very fragmented, very saturated market. So collaborations and design, when it's strictly related to product design, it's something, and it's a matter that is really pressing today. There's a lot going on, and it's not always difficult. It's not always easy to tackle the right product collaboration, tackle the right strategy, whether it's content, whether it's an activation. It's something that we day in day out do at Highsnobiety, and we see how difficult it actually is to roll out a plan, a project, and something meaningful for the audience and for the consumers. So in the last few years, a lot of brands have tried through multiple, like I said, content activations, ultimately product collaborations to impress a consumer that is very far from their worlds. Is very distracted, especially, like I said, in a market that is totally saturated and has been for the last decade at least. Some have done a good job, some have done a great job, some have actually failed. Through very safe, very predictable, and ultimately very forgettable marketing strategies. Right? Nobody cares really if you know if you do a brand for brand product collaboration that doesn't actually embrace people's emotions, way of thinking, doesn't actually shape any social or any cultural behavior. You know, we talk about cultural marketing. There was a meeting before us where, you know, the guests delved into the theme of culture in many different ways. A lot of brands claimed to be entertainers, but very few actually entertained us, you know. A lot of them failed to really entertain their audience, to really create that emotional bond. So this is something that is highly pressing, and I'm happy to throw a few questions at you about this today. So in essence, how, and this is the main reason why we're here today. You know, how do you turn a brand collaboration, a product collaboration into something that can shape culture? You know, how do you, and what happens specifically when people and brands get together, you know? What happens then? What happens behind the scenes? You know, we've discussed a few times before we met today, you know. What goes on before anything is actually rolled out, before the magic happens, if any magic happens, right? So first question, I guess, Dennis, is for you. You know, Porsche collaborate. Nah, I was prepared. Dennis.
No, we get it.
We've got
Dennis,
this.
so Porsche collaborates with La Marzocco to create a custom Linea Micra inspired by the 911, right? So what made this partnership so special for you and the team at Porsche, you know? And what were the elements that led the creative process? I guess that's the first question I have.
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to caveat everything I say today by the fact that I'm extremely privileged to have two designers next to me. So I'm a marketing guy, but maybe that's also a little bit a direction for you, Remo, in terms of what we need to do to make these things important, because storytelling, apart from the essence and brilliance of the product, is an extremely important part. When we do partnerships at Porsche, the world that you described is a really accurate one. And if you were a consumer, Remo, with everything you said, it's an extremely high bar to strike. You know, you don't want anything to be boring. It needs to be culture relevant. It needs to be entertaining. So it's actually a really difficult field because everyone's collaborating with anyone. The simple formula we always try to use at Porsche when we do these things is 3 A's. So the first A is attractiveness, because I think at the end of the day, if it's a story that people are not genuinely attracted to, if it's something I need to push or explain very long term, there's no sense of making that. Second one is authenticity, because yes, we could theoretically do anything and everywhere around the world, but I think every brand needs to understand that they have a field of competency for themselves. And although I'm sure everyone tries to enlarge that field when you do a collaboration, you cannot just do anything that doesn't fit to who you are in the market and how you are seen. And the last A is alignment, which for me is, there are constellations where you have a great idea and it would work, but if the companies are not finding the right way to work together, and I would underline 10,000 times also on a human level, you're not just bringing this off the grid. So when I look at the La Marzocco situation, first of all, and you wanted us to also share some insights, right? So first of all, I think Porsche and La Marzocco are probably not the first two companies you think of when you think of a force field of brands. And one of the first questions I asked the La Marzocco team actually was, why are you guys not collaborating with Ferrari? Because you're an Italian brand, you're through and through Italian. So in the automotive world, the country you're from is really a big part of your essence and who you are. And the more we discussed about it, we felt those parallels in the way that we approach things that I think make the combo of a German brand and Italian brand so interesting. That's the attractiveness part. Authenticity, because whenever people meet with cars, coffee always plays a role in there. So it's always good if you have a huge community of people who looks at the product and says like, yeah, that's what we need. That's what we want to be associated with. And then the alignment level is, I think, just on the people side, it clicked immediately. And There's an interesting story, if I can tell that. So the first really important meeting was at Stuttgart in our HQ. And my HQ is in a typical office building, right? So the La Marzocco guys came with like 6 or 7 people. So quite the, fitting every Italian stereotype of La Familia walking in. And we always make fun of each other, so I hope that's fine. And while we're in the meeting, someone calls me from our reception and says, like, Dennis, there's a huge Euro pallet for you guys from La Marzocco. And I'm like, a Euro pallet? I mean, are there more people coming or what's happening? And then it's not easy to get a pallet of that size into a normal office building. And then Stefano and his guys, they, how should I say that? As a surprise, as a token of where we could lead this, they had already built a machine with Porsche design DNA. It's actually the machine that is exposed also here next to our car, the big black one, 3 groups. And that was a moment when on a human level, on a level of, do you trust the partner that they want to put their A game into this? It doesn't get any better than that. So that was a moment for me when I said, yes, if we don't do anything with these guys, with that attitude, we're stupid.
I remember the moment, the noise of when we put the machine on the table. Boom, 90 kilos.
and we had no clue what was inside the box. So it's funny that we meet an event that's called Out of the Box, but it was really a very boxy moment. And then when it came off and it was like, this is a coffee machine, and we're like, what? I mean, yeah, it's here. You can see it here in the exhibition. It's really a very beautiful piece. It's become vintage now because we used it at a couple of events. So it's maybe like a classic Porsche, not in the pristine original condition, but with a lot of stories.
It's aging, right? In the right way.
It's crazy it's very brave to build, ship, and present yourself with a massive, very expensive machine, jewel branded when you don't even know who you're really gonna have in front of you. So it's quite an investment, both emotionally and financially, I guess. So it's it's very.
Yeah, I had to explain it internally why a guy was working for a month on that, but. We did it. Yeah, we thought that to talk immediately about product and how we do things and how we wanted to push that project was really important. And the techniques that were used on that machine are the same that were used in Porsche in the 50s, something like that. So we tried to create an immediate connection on the product, not only between people, but both things in the same moment.
Dennis, what led the creative process really? I understand the AAA approach, and but for an automotive performance brand, to coming close to an espresso artisanal brand, heritage brand like La Marzocco. What attracted you the most from a creative standpoint? Was it the coffee? Was it the history? Was it the Italianness? I guess you mentioned the first reaction of why not Ferrari, why not Lamborghini, why Porsche?
I think that it's really a community-driven thing. Cars and coffee is a standing kind of thing that exists even before we started our collaboration. So Porsche is a brand that is always built on people coming together and having a good time. And anytime they do it, they go for a common drive or they just have a meetup. There needs to be some coffee in there. That's why all these events are called Cars and Coffee. So it was really a community-driven approach, because what we try with those brand collaborations is really open up the brand for new people. And it's true, we do want to get people into the conversation that normally might stop at the door of a sports car manufacturer and say, like, this is not for me, this is too expensive, this is too, hedonistic, too selfish. And when you can tap into another passion point and prove that you are, really emotionally invested in what these people love, in this case espresso coffee, it's, I think, a huge door opener to attract new audiences. And I also want to clearly say, as Stefano will confirm, we did a coffee machine together. So for me, the respect is extremely important. I would never walk in as Porsche and tell Stefano and his guys how to build a coffee machine. That would be foolish. So I think there was a lot of respect also for the design DNA, the technology that you guys used to build the, if I may say so, best coffee machines in the world. And we don't want to be, if you want to clap, you can clap now. So you know, if you walk in as Porsche and then you are arrogant and try to teach them how to be better at their own game, I think that's the wrong approach. And I think people appreciate that, because what we did was adding subtle touches that quote some of the things that make our car special, but it was not an invasion of La Marzocco DNA with too much Porsche-ness, if you like.
Yeah, talking about DNA, that was going to be a question for you, Stefano. I mean, how did you, you know, keep the two DNAs coexisting, and, you know, how did you manage to, how did it work for you to blend the automotive performance side of things, as I said before, with the Italian craftsmanship, you know, and still keep the two things very much aligned, you know?
So internally at La Marzocco, we have been discussing about Porsche 2,000 times, even before the collaboration, because anytime we have to do a restyling of a machine, there's someone saying, we need to do as the 911. It's perfect, it's changing, it's always a classic, it's the same product changing through the years. So I think this is where we have the highest connection, both brands, but we could say also for Victorinox, in my opinion, we try to create an instant classic from the first moment. So the idea is never to create something that in 1-2 years you don't want to see anymore, but to create a shape that can last. For us is to make something that can last as long as the internal component of the machine, so many, many years. And I think we had this connection on a design level with Porsche, where the idea was, let's keep our shape, that it's a classic, let's put some details, there are other classics that can last basically forever. So it was quite easy to discuss from a design point of view. Did I answer the question?
Yes,
or,
yes. No.
I see you a little
very,
not so...
No, you very much answered the question. It's, I was, you know, Deniz mentioned, you know, quite a lot. You know, he talked quite a lot about this alignment. So
This is the plan.
Yeah, this.
Dennis explain anything, and I put some small details.
You're exactly blending the two worlds together. This is where we're getting to, right? So no, thank you very much for that. So Denise, Denise, right? On Victorinox. Obviously, Victorinox is a brand that holds, you know, two kinds of meanings for me. It's both practical and emotional, right? I actually bought myself one last week for my birthday. It's very nice.
Well done.
I wish I knew you before. But
you will not be able to live without it now. Tell me.
How did you, you know, in the creative and, you know, design process, how was it for you, you know, to build an object that is both functional and also able to tell a story, you know?
When we create a story for an object, you need to understand two things. You need to understand the purpose, and you need to understand the user. So that's what we in design call human-centered design. And design at Victorinox has been human-centered since always, since the very beginning. So when we wanted to create our barista tool, we observed, right? We observed baristas, we observed coffee aficionados, and we understood that the ritual of making a coffee starts way before the brewing. It starts with the care and the maintenance of the machine. So we wanted to be part of that ritual. We wanted to bring something meaningful, something that makes that experience. That also ties in very much with our core belief at Victorinox. We believe that being best prepared makes life better. So we wanted to be best prepared. You know, we wanted you to have your machine best prepared for that moment, for that ritual. A design is, in my opinion, ready not when it's produced, finished, and put on the table, but when you use it, when you hold it in your hand. That's where the story begins.
Wow, and Stefano, again, from a design standpoint, you know, obviously a Victorinox piece holds a lot of parts. You know, it's a simple object, it's very precise, it has a lot of heritage and nostalgia, you know. there's various elements. Like I said, it's both emotional and functional. It's a crazy nice object to have on you, right? So what did you hope for this object would represent for the baristas and the coffee professionals? Is it more of a practical side, or did you also hope this would embrace somehow the culture of both brands?
I think as a designer, you need to think at the full experience with our coffee machines. So anything, and for sure this tool brings some magic in something that wasn't so magic before, in my opinion. So adds a new level of being super happy, or even of cleaning something that for me is not so common. I mean, it is not the most magical moment. When you use our machines, the brewing, the steaming is something where you can see the product coming out, or you can start smelling, tasting. It's much easier to bring some magic there. I think we have found this spot with the Victorinox collaboration, where we bring some magic in something that wasn't so magic. So I hope this is how people will use it and will feel when they are using this tool. I didn't answer. Not even.
You did. Why did you keep on? Why do I look so shocked when you answer? Yeah. It's just my face. Get used to.
Sorry. I will look Dennis when
you can ask my colleagues over there. I'm always a little unimpressed, but that's just the way I look. Okay. No. I've got a question for all of you. I mean, you all obviously come from all sorts of different backgrounds. You said, Dennis, before, you're a marketing professional. I myself come from marketing. You're more creative and, product design led, And somehow we've all worked for, some high impact collaborations and projects. And what did you learn in your obviously, we also come from different social and cultural backgrounds. I was talking about how a product collaboration or a brand collaborations can impact or can influence social and cultural behavior at some point. So what did you learn in your path, about collaborations, about building a strong collaborations, building a strong partnership,
Should I go first?
If you want.
Or the lady?
You guys decide.
I can go.
I think the one thing that collaborations teach me is always humbleness, because it's very easy in your own world to be very enamored with who you are as a brand and what you do. I think it's extremely refreshing if you work with someone who's at the top of the game in a different discipline, in a completely different set of circumstances, because that's really, I think, opening up interesting views for your own world. And Stefano, I just talked about it beforehand, because as La Marzocco, they would love to have the resources of a company like Porsche, and as Porsche, we would love to have the simplicity and straightforwardness of how they take decisions. So you could also argue the bigger maybe the cultural difference between the companies, the more interesting the learning process is. But at the end of the day, I think I see it as a huge privilege in my line of work that I have these insights in other companies and how they run their business. That's extremely inspiring.
So this is a very marketing-driven answer, I would say.
Yeah, what do you expect from me? I mean,
yeah. Numbers. No, that's good. Yeah.
I'll make it more emotional now.
Yes, please.
oh, please.
We can cry together. I've learned that collaborations are non-linear. Maybe we can agree on that. Because it's a creative process at the end of the day, right? Even if it's on the marketing side, on the design side, you always have creative thinking and probably design thinking. So it's non-linear, and you need to untangle ideas and interlace them into something new that feels authentic for both brands, but that anyhow none of them could have done on their own. So very important is to see the values of each brand. I think you mentioned something very important, is the mutual respect for between the teams, the trust. I I think that's something I felt very much working with the Marzocco team, Stefano, Lisa, because I knew when we went to visit Florence, I knew I could see the care and the love they put in each one of the machines they do. And when you see that, you're like, okay, I can trust. There's a lot of love in it. And yeah, so that's for me beauty. It's more than a roadmap. It's a constant dialogue, ideas diverge, converge, overlap, and we need to continuously untangle those ideas and weave something new, yeah.
Yeah, and most of the time that comes across quite easily, you know, especially with, you know, certain brands or certain objects that are part of ourselves everyday's lives, you know. It's a little bit more difficult in certain industries. Like I said, you know, I work in the world of fashion and luxury, and you know, somehow those emotions, those personal feelings, those relationships that stand behind a product partnership or a brand partnership don't always come out, you know. And this is what you're saying is genuinely very, very true. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And also, we share so many values. I mean, Marzocco and Victorinox, precision, craftsmanship, authenticity, also what you mentioned before. So that makes it easier, yeah.
Yeah, you are too good. I don't know what to say anymore, but I love collaboration because it's 12 years now that I'm in the coffee business. And when you keep designing the same product, you can be creative as much as you want, but to have a different point of view on your products is something really, really useful. It's a huge opportunity to grow. And this collaboration for us don't stop in the moment in which the product goes out. They keep working in your brain for next projects. And it's always a new challenge that you have on your table that you need in some way to solve. And this is useful even for the next product that you're gonna design. So it's, for me, collaboration are really, really important, even for standard production design. So I love collaboration. It's our fuel, I would say.
Yeah. And it's what makes you stand out, obviously, to, I would say, a crowd that is not always or necessarily aware of, you know, of what La Marzocco does behind the scenes or does at a professional level, and for the professionals of the industry, right? So a collaboration, I guess, it's also a way to speak to a different community, talk to new generations, you know, capture the attention, as we were saying, to a wider audience. You know, that's a bit my job, for example, and the company I work for. And then it's thinking about Porsche. You know, it's obviously has a very steady, consistent way, you know, of, you know, very steady rhythm as a brand. You know, so when you launch something unexpected, it doesn't have to be a collaboration. You know, it could be a campaign or a special project activations. You know, what makes that work? What creates the spark for you?
You want a marketing-driven answer?
No. I would that I can expect. No, I'd like a very personal answer.
It's a good question. I think I'm working for Porsche since quite some time now, and I think a lot has changed in the way that people want brands to be part in their lives. So maybe the most simple analogy is, I think, if you're really a fan of a brand, it's like having a virtual friend in your life. And if you think of friends, the best friends are predictable and reliable, but they also come up with something new that inspires you every now and then. And I think at the beginning, if you go back 20 years or so, there was much more accent on the reliability accent when it came to brand building. And in this time and age, and you know, Remo, no offense, but publications like yours are part of that, where you have a new headline every day, where everything is driven by social media. You need to have these surprising moments every now and then. And actually, I think there are so many collaborations these days because it's the fastest way, especially in an industry like ours, because, you know, building a car, developing a car, that's a multi-year process. So if you want to know what we will surprise you with on the product side in 3 years, that's already been decided, right? So if you want to throw in something in between because you also want to react to a trend or something you see in the market, for us, a collaboration is an extremely precious tool to do that in a time frame that allows us to be responsive and to talk to people. And so for me, I think, I'm also going to be honest with you, it's not like every collaboration we do is the same kind of success. A lot of things we've done, of course, in hindsight, you could do differently. What I've experienced is sometimes you also have to be a little bit lucky with hitting something that's, happening in parallel and striking a chord with, an online audience, and especially in the world of social media. But for me, the biggest challenge always is when we come up with something new and surprising to also keep it simple. Because you mentioned how much we are all bombarded with information, content, and all these things. So strike the balance of being surprising, but being simple enough that you can easily memorize it and tell to other people that's the real deal. And I think, again, for our example, Cars and Coffee, espresso machine with Porsche touches, that was a hit, that worked beautifully, and a good example of, how you can play it if you do it right.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that. And Stefano, I've got one last one for you, sorry. So looking at Officine, Fratelli, Bambi, that in the industry, I guess it's a break from the norm kind of collaboration, right? And I was wondering, when it's mostly about cultural value and not about numbers, how do you evaluate the success of a collaboration internally, especially a collaboration like this?
From a design point of view, what we try to do is to be sure that we are pushing our values through Officine. We need to talk about craftsmanship, who we are, all these type of things. We try as design team to not be involved too much on what happened after. We need to be completely sure that what we did is good for us. I mean, if we will be always respectful of our roots and the way we always managed product, it can be a success or not, but we know that we did what we had to do. Because for me, there are so many variables that, as Deniz was saying, that can change the success of a product, that you need to have some internal rules that let you say, okay, this is a La Marzocco product. We always say this, each La Marzocco has to be a La Marzocco, which is not a rule. You don't know, you have to feel it. So for me, each product that goes out of the workshop that it is La Marzocco is a success. Then there are so many variables that can change it, but we always try to be proud of what comes out of that workshop.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. That's exactly what how it feels, especially for a segment like this, for a product like this. It's not always easy to capture. So I got one last question. I'll start from, if possible, from Denise. But so to wrap it up, what do you think makes a timeless collaboration nowadays? Given what we've discussed and what we said, what is a timeless collaboration?
Well, there are many factors, but from a design perspective, I'll give you two, which is authenticity and purpose. Because if you base your collaboration on your core values, on your DNA, and you think about the experience and you have a clear reason to exist, then the collaboration will not only be timeless, but will ensure the legacy of both brands. So will contribute to it. So I stick to those two words, authenticity and purpose. Yeah.
I think I said it at the top, right? Attractiveness, authenticity,
True.
alignment.
True.
And you see there's one A word between the two of us, which is certainly the one that is, if you want to make it an enduring collaboration, something that people will still look at in like 5 or 10 years and say like, oh, that was cool. Maybe the most important one of those.
Love that. To wrap it up, what makes a timeless collaboration?
I hope I have the answer. I mean, it's not so easy to say it, but I think respecting the values is for sure one of the most important thing. And when you collaborate, you need to respect the value of your brand, but even the work that is made by the other brand. I think that is really, really important because you have to push both the brands, not only one, and to attach something because it's funny to put it there. I think respect between each other is one of the keys to have a product that can last.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I guess we've come to an end.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deniz. Thank you, Denise. Thank you, Stefano. It's a pleasure to be on stage with you today. Thank you.
Thank you.